Imagine standing in the middle of the Arctic with temperatures so low they can freeze an engine, knife-like winds, and endless snow in every direction. In these extreme conditions, only one type of machine can guarantee survival, transport, and even shelter: the giants of ice. You might have heard of a few of them, but I guarantee there are trucks on this list that even the biggest off-road vehicle fans have never seen. Now think about this. What's the real size of a machine built to cross frozen oceans? And what would it feel like to drive something like that with the roar of a heavy engine echoing across the white desert like piloting a fortress on wheels? If you're into massive extreme vehicles, hold tight. You're about to discover the largest Arctic expedition off-road trucks ever built. Ready to meet these giants of the frozen desert? Stick around, because the number one on this list is so huge you won't believe what had to be done just to make it leave the drawing board. KAMAZ 6345. At over 10 meters long, nearly 3 meters tall, and weighing more than 20 tons, the KAMAZ 6345 is one of the Russian-made giants. Designed to conquer the harshest regions on Earth. Built in the 2000s, this truck wasn't made for roads. It was made for places where no roads exist: the Arctic Circle, frozen Siberia, and remote territories where even GPS loses signal. This kind of size isn't just for show. Every cubic meter of this beast was designed for survival, range, and transport capacity. Its extended frame and raised cab allow it to carry heavy equipment, extra fuel, and even life support containers with beds, heaters, and food all integrated. Out here, hundreds of kilometers from the nearest station, you can't rely on anything small. It runs on a 17-liter V8 diesel engine, pushing around 360 horsepower, more than enough to move its massive frame even across frozen terrain. The 8x8 drivetrain and reinforced suspension let it glide over deep snow-cracked ice and soft ground without sinking. Inside, the spacious cab is fully thermally insulated and climate-controlled, offering everything a crew needs to operate for weeks in frozen regions. The tire pressure control system, operated directly from the cabin, lets the driver adjust the tires for deep snow or hardened frozen ground. The KAMAZ 6345 has mainly been used by Russian oil and gas companies and in Arctic science expeditions, and its size serves another critical role many overlook. It works as a shelter. That's right. In many situations, the KAMAZ isn't just a truck, it's survival on wheels. Some versions were even fitted with rooftop modules, turning the vehicle into a mobile support base that increased its size even more, turning it into a military-style Arctic motorhome. But if you think the KAMAZ is big, wait until you see what's next. FWD-MM-1 Terra Cruiser. Back in the 1950s, the United States had a logistical challenge: how to transport heavy tactical equipment like radar systems and mobile antennas across regions with no roads, just mud, snow, and unstable ice. The answer came with the FWD-MM-1 Terra Cruiser, a large, robust, and highly versatile truck designed to tow military equipment solo with a focus on mobility and autonomy. Built by FWD Corporation, the MM-1 measured about 10 meters long, stood nearly 3 meters high, and weighed around 10 tons. Its presence was intimidating, with massive low-pressure tires over 1.5 meters tall. Built specifically to float over snow or cruise across swampy terrain without sinking. It was powered by a V8 gasoline engine, pushing around 400 horsepower, connected to a full-time 4x4 drivetrain. But what really made the MM-1 stand out was its ability to operate in extreme Arctic environments, towing specific modules like the AGPQ-3 mobile radar and generator trailers or communication systems. Its size had a clear purpose: to transport a single critical piece of gear with enough power and independence to go where no other truck could. No multi-trailer convoys, no long hauls, just a brute built for precise, tough missions. It saw heavy use during the construction of the DEW line, a chain of radar stations built across northern Canada and Alaska to detect potential Soviet attacks. In those regions where temperatures hit -50 degrees Celsius and the landscape was nothing but ice, the MM-1 was one of the few trucks that could make the trip without external support. Despite its simple design, its visual presence was unforgettable. Tall, wide, with inflatable tires and a reinforced cab. The deep engine roar echoing across the ice only added to its military mission aura. The MM-1 wasn't made to carry the world, just exactly what was needed for the mission to succeed with full safety traction and autonomy. It may be smaller than some of the other monsters on this list, but it was the pioneer of a new era in Arctic extreme mobility. And next up comes a Soviet legend, one of the most impressive trucks ever built for polar operations. ZIL E-167. At the height of the Cold War, the Soviet Union needed vehicles that could cross the vast, unforgiving Arctic regions, places with no roads, no infrastructure, and where the cold could crack steel. It was in this context that the ZIL E-167 was born, one of the boldest off-road trucks ever built by Soviet engineering. Developed in 1962 by the renowned manufacturer ZIL Zavod imeni Likachova. The E-167 was a one-of-a-kind prototype designed to operate in extreme environments like the Siberian tundra, frozen swamps, and deep snow. It was meant to transport heavy equipment for missions in energy communications and exploration in areas where no regular truck could ever reach. Just looking at it tells you everything you need to know about the scale of this machine. Over 8.2 meters long, 2.9 meters tall, nearly 3 meters wide, and weighing over 7 tons, its appearance was somewhere between a military truck and a space rover. The most striking feature was its 6 massive wheels, each equipped with 1.6-meter-tall, low-pressure tires designed specifically to move across soft snow and unstable ground. Its 6x6 drivetrain allowed each axle to receive independent torque, crucial for staying mobile on slippery, obstacle-ridden terrain. But what really set the ZIL E-167 apart was its unique engine configuration. It had 2 ZIL 375 V8 gasoline engines, each producing 180 horsepower mounted side by side under the hood. That's a combined 360 horsepower distributed through a specially engineered transmission built exclusively for this model. The cab was pressurized, thermally insulated, and equipped with heating systems designed to keep 2 crew members operational for extended periods in freezing cold. It also had cold start systems to help fire up the engines in temperatures as low as -50 degrees Celsius. During testing, the ZIL E-167 covered over 15,000 kilometers in brutal terrain through deep snow, frozen rivers, and dense Siberian forests, proving its unmatched mobility in landscapes where even military trucks would fail. Still, it was never mass-produced. High-cost mechanical complexity and massive fuel consumption kept it from going further. Yet it became a symbol of Soviet Arctic engineering, and the only unit ever built is now preserved at the Vadim Zadorozhny Technical Museum in Russia. It may not have been a commercial success, but the ZIL E-167 was a legendary experiment. A colossus on wheels built to conquer cold isolation and the wild unknown. Enjoying this journey through the giants of ice? Then go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the monsters we've still got coming up. And now, if you thought this was over the top, the next one abandons wheels entirely and jumps into tank-style tracks. Ural 592. In the 1980s, Soviet industry faced a massive logistical challenge. How to move heavy cargo through icy, swampy terrain where even their best 6x6 trucks couldn't go. The answer was the Ural 592, a vehicle that ditched wheels completely in favor of tank-style tracks, transforming it into a true hybrid between a truck and a military crawler. Developed by the Ural AZ factory, the 5920 was engineered specifically for low-resistance terrain, frozen tundra, deep snow wetlands, and sludge. Its chassis was based on the Ural 375D, but modified to ride on a double-track system connected by a central articulated joint, allowing it to bend in the middle for easier turning and maneuverability. The full setup stretched around 11 meters long, 3 meters wide, stood over 3 meters tall, and weighed about 13 tons. That bulk was necessary to support the cargo platform, the articulating mechanism, and carry payloads of up to 5 tons, even in unstable terrain. It ran on a YAM-Z 238 diesel V8 with 14 liters of displacement and a power output between 210 and 260 horsepower. Modest by size, but tuned for continuous low-end torque, which is exactly what you need to slowly push through extreme conditions. The transmission was manual, with multiple low-range gears and locking differentials. The true highlight was the dual continuous tracks, each nearly 4 meters long, made of reinforced rubber and wide enough to spread the vehicle's weight evenly. This gave the Ural 592 an ultra-low ground pressure, allowing it to float across soft snow or thin ice without sinking. An absolute must in regions like Siberia, Yamal, and Russia's far north. It was mostly used by the oil and gas industry, transporting gear and supplies to places where helicopters couldn't land and no wheeled vehicle could reach. It also served in scientific missions, supply delivery, and maintenance of isolated infrastructure. While not well known outside Russia, the Ural 592 remains a benchmark in track-based vehicles designed for extreme climates. Fun fact, many units were upgraded with heated cabs, engine warmers, and compact sleeping quarters, making this beast a full-blown tracked mobile base. And if that's not impressive enough, up next is one of the newest and smartest Arctic vehicles ever built. Crafted not by a factory, but by Russian adventurers determined to drive to the North Pole. Burlak Snow Truck. While most vehicles on this list were born in military factories, the Burlak is a rare exception. And perhaps that's why it's one of the smartest. Designed by independent Russian engineers, the Burlak snow truck was built specifically for self-sufficient Arctic expeditions. And yes, it actually drove to the North Pole across the ice. At 6.2 meters long, 3 meters wide, 2.8 meters tall, and weighing around 4.5 tons, the Burlak isn't the biggest here, but it looks like a mini space rover on wheels. Built to carry people and cargo through environments where any failure could be fatal. Its structure is built on a light tubular steel chassis with independent suspension and 6 massive low-pressure tires, each about 1.75 meters in diameter, fully inflatable and with onboard pressure adjustment. That means the Burlak can float over soft snow and even cross partially frozen lakes. That's right, it's amphibious. It floats. Power comes from a Cummins 2.8 ISF turbo diesel engine producing 150 horsepower and 316 Newton-meters of torque at just 1,800 RPM, optimized for low-end power and fuel efficiency. Thanks to additional fuel tanks and complete thermal insulation, it can drive over 2,000 kilometers without resupply. Inside the Burlak is a mobile survival shelter. It has beds, a stove, a heating system, solar panels, and space for up to 4 crew members to live and work for weeks. It was engineered almost by hand, but with precision and Arctic-proof planning. It successfully completed a Russia to North Pole over ice expedition on a route once considered impossible for wheeled vehicles. Unlike the Soviet monsters, the Burlak is lightweight, mobile, and comfortable without sacrificing strength. Its success drew attention from international expeditions, scientific teams, and documentary crews worldwide. And if that's the face of a new generation, the next one on the list is a throwback to old-school brute force. A massive mining truck redesigned for frozen terrain. Kress HT730C. The Kress AHT730C, born from a partnership between Kress and Caterpillar, is one of those monsters engineered to survive the coldest corners of the planet where conventional transport simply doesn't cut it. This articulated tractor truck was built for operations in frozen regions like the Canadian Arctic, Northern Alaska, and Antarctic bases. It's primarily used in the oil, gas, and scientific sectors where massive cargo needs to be hauled long distances across deep snow and ice. With an articulated chassis and 6x6 drive, the Kress offers surprising maneuverability for its size. The center hinge design allows it to handle tight turns even when pulling loads of up to 200 tons. That's about the weight of 3 full-sized freight cars. Under the hood is a Caterpillar C13 six-cylinder diesel engine, delivering 370 horsepower. But more importantly, it's equipped with extreme cold start systems, capable of running in temperatures as low as -60 degrees Celsius without needing external preheating. Built for rugged terrain, it uses multi-disc oil-cooled air brakes and an engine retarder with 250 kilowatts of braking power and ABS to keep it safe on icy slopes and sharp turns. The heavy-duty suspension keeps it stable even at max load. The cab is fully climate-controlled, with Webasto heating and air conditioning ensuring the crew stays warm and alert. And just in case things go wrong, the AHT730C comes with a hydraulic winch for self-recovery. Essential in terrain where getting stuck can be deadly. Visually, it's a beast. Tall, wide, and fitted with massive tires. Its profile looks more like a factory tractor with truck DNA and the sound of its diesel engine echoing across the frozen plains. Unforgettable. Despite being a modern machine, it's still relatively unknown outside technical circles. Interestingly, the AHT name has caused confusion as some mistake it for AHT Cooling Systems and Industrial Refrigeration Company, but there's no relation. In the world of extreme logistics, though there's no confusion, this truck is a reference point for performance on ice. And if you thought this was wild, wait until you meet the next one. It doesn't just roll. It floats on giant inflatable wheels bigger than your car's hood. Crowley Catco Rolligon. When it comes to Arctic mega machines, few are as bizarre or as brilliant as the Rolligon. This truck looks more like a motorized air mattress, rolling on pillow-sized tires that seem too big to be real. Developed by Catco California Arctic Transport Company and operated by Crowley, the Rolligon was created to solve a simple but deadly problem. How do you transport tons of supplies across soft snow or permafrost without sinking? The solution: build a truck with giant low-pressure inflatable wheels, each up to 4 meters in diameter, capable of distributing the vehicle's weight so evenly that it floats over the snow. That's why the nickname Rolligon stuck. Some versions, stretched up to 12 meters long, stood 3.5 meters high and could haul over 30 tons of gear. The frame was reinforced but kept light-built to withstand extreme cold in Alaska and northern Canada. Depending on the setup, it had 6x6 or 8x8 drive and was powered by Caterpillar diesel engines ranging from 200 to 300 horsepower. Transmissions were automatic with multiple gears, and cabs had built-in heating systems for crew survival. Visually, it was surreal. Huge tires, a stretched-out body, and a smooth gliding movement over snow and ice like it was floating. The Rolligon was used to carry fuel communications towers, building materials, and more often into remote Arctic villages, oil fields, or scientific outposts. Here's a fun fact. Many of these trucks were hand-built by Catco staff using parts from tractors, school buses, and modified rigs. It was pure DIY survival engineering. Build it yourself or don't make it at all. Its unique wheel design became so iconic that Rolligon is now used worldwide to describe any low-pressure tire Arctic vehicle. And if you love seeing raw engineering go head-to-head with nature, now's a great time to like this video, subscribe to Titan Factory, and ring the bell, because what comes next is another level. A Soviet tank-based truck that looks like a polar locomotive. Kharkovchanka. Few vehicles in the world carry as much historical weight and literal weight as the legendary Kharkovchanka, the Soviet-built track truck created to conquer Antarctica in the 1950s. Developed in 1959 by the Kharkiv tractor plant in Soviet Ukraine, this monster was based on the ATT military tank chassis and completely redesigned to become a mobile survival base in the most extreme climate on Earth. It measured 8.5 meters long, 3.5 meters tall, over 3 meters wide, and weighed about 24 tons. Its wide tank tracks, inherited directly from the ATT, help distribute its weight, providing traction over any frozen surface, deep snow, cracked ice, and steep inclines. originally powered by a 38.8-liter V12 diesel engine producing 995 horsepower. Yes, nearly 1,000. The Kharkov-Chanka Expedition version was tuned down to around 600 horsepower in favor of durability and fuel efficiency over raw power. Inside, it was fully insulated with heating systems, bunk beds, a working table, a kitchen communications gear, and enough space for up to 8 crew members to live and work for weeks. In other words, the Kharkov-Chanka wasn't just a truck. It was a house on tracks with full autonomy. It was used during Antarctic expeditions throughout the Cold War, especially at Vostok Station, where temperatures could plunge below 80 degrees Celsius. In such conditions, it was the only reliable vehicle capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers without support. Its silhouette is unmistakable, a boxy cabin mounted over huge tank treads resembling a heavily armored train car, and that is no coincidence. Kharkov-Chanka literally means the one from Kharkiv, a nod to its birthplace. A few units still exist today and have been restored for exhibitions and documentaries, and even modern polar vehicles still draw inspiration from the original Kharkov-Chanka design. But if you think nothing could be larger, the next one isn't just a truck. It's a rolling freight train with engines, wagons, and nearly 2 football fields of length. Overland Train Mark II. Ever heard of a train without tracks? Well, Letorno built one and it rolled across the ice. The Overland Train Mark II, also known as the LCC-1 Snow Freighter, was a groundbreaking project from the late 1950s. Developed for the United States Army with one bold goal: to transport massive supplies across the Arctic without ships, planes, or railroads. The full convoy had 7 modular trailers, all hydraulically linked, pulled by a command unit called the LCC-1 Logistics Cargo Carrier. In total, the machine stretched an unbelievable 173 meters long, capable of hauling over 150 tons of cargo. The Overland Train carried a 600 horsepower turbo diesel that generated electricity to run electric motors on every wheel, creating distributed traction that could push it across snow, ice, and frozen wetlands. Each wheel stood 2.5 meters tall, and it could reach about 30 kilometers per hour, slow but steady enough to cross the Arctic without roads. An elevated command cab provided heating, radio communication, and snow navigation, letting crews operate in total isolation. Its main job was supplying DEW line radar stations in northern Canada, a Cold War early warning network built to detect potential Soviet threats in regions where roads didn't exist. The machine could travel hundreds of kilometers over pure ice, but although it worked, it was too expensive and complex to maintain. As heavy-lift cargo planes became more reliable, the Overland Train was retired, yet its influence lived on in films, video games, and futuristic vehicle designs. Part of it is still preserved at the Yukon Transportation Museum as one of the largest land machines ever built. And now it's time for number 1, a colossal failure and one of the greatest polar trucks ever built, the Antarctic Snow Cruiser. Designed in the United States in 1939 for the Second Bird Antarctic Expedition, it was intended as a mobile Antarctic research lab that would let a scientific team live, work, and cross Antarctica for months without outside support. The scale was staggering 17 meters long, nearly 5 meters wide, 4.5 meters tall, and over 34 tons larger than a modern double-decker bus, and this was the 1930s. It rode on 4 enormous tires, almost 3 meters tall, without tracks or chains. The high flotation concept was supposed to glide over snow, but traction never worked as planned. Its powertrain was advanced for the era, a diesel engine driving electric generators, feeding electric motors on each wheel, similar to systems later used in trains and tanks. It produced around 300 horsepower, had full heating and pressurization, and was designed to survive for months. Inside, it featured a lab fuel and food storage living quarters, a control room, and even a rooftop hangar for a folding airplane. In reality, it failed almost immediately. After arrival in Antarctica, the tires slipped, it got stuck repeatedly, and it traveled only a few kilometers before being abandoned while the expedition continued by conventional means. Even so, it became a legend, an icon of engineering ambition colliding with polar reality. In the 1950s, a U.S. expedition found it again, buried but mostly intact, then it vanished once more. Many believe it is now buried dozens of meters deep, somewhere in Antarctica, a frozen ghost of American engineering. These polar machines remain symbols of innovation, survival, and daring rolling legends that conquered white deserts and sometimes disappeared beneath the ice.